Although 2021 was challenging in many ways, it was also one of the best years ever for the global auction market. The pandemic accelerated the growth of online auctions, and a favorable global economic climate, emerging demographic groups, and a new focus on sustainability drove more users to the secondary market than ever before. In previous episodes, we have related to various reports when we have talked about trends in the auction market. This time, we can present Barnebys' own report on the changing trends in the global auction markets 2022. The report, which is based on analysis of our 4 million monthly visitors, final prices, and user behaviors, shows completely changed behaviors from previous years. Today, I talk to Barnebys CMO, Arta Sylejmani. Arta, what are the major trends from this report?
One of the major trends is that millennials are on the march in the sale rooms around the world. They're bidding from mobile platforms wherever they are. And we've seen a significant growth in their presence. Millennials account for nearly half of Barnebys' audience, with 43%.
That's a lot, and that must be growth from previous year.
It is. It's the highest number that we've had in 2018. We had 33% millennials visiting Barnebys.
So it's about 10% growth in a couple of years.
It is.
So what kind of categories are they most into, this attractive group of millennials?
So we've seen an increased interest in Pokemon cards. Childhood board games have been extremely popular at auctions recently. And we think that this is due to us trying to escape the screens that we all spend so much time on. And also that we are trying to go back to the good old days.
No, I can agree. I mean, obviously it's a reaction. So, but except those kind of nostalgic items, what kind of categories are top performing in the age group?
So last year, millennials in the United States and United Kingdom were both interested in categories such as antiques and jewelry and gems, while the same age group in Sweden showed more interest in porcelain and pottery and arts and graphics. We could also see that across these markets, searches for Rolexes increased.
But do you think that is a reaction to this digital world we're living in today?
I definitely think so. Millennials have been raised in such a virtual world. And these new and younger buyers, they appreciate what we call the real items. So the physical books, stamps, games, and records.
You just mentioned Rolexes. I mean, watches has been a strong trend on the auction market. We know that by fact. Do you see this in the report as well?
We do. So we can see growing interest in old and vintage watches and high-end handbags. So Rolex was one of the most searched watch brands on Barnebys last year, with searches increasing by 71% compared to the previous year. And there was a 31% increase in searches for vintage across all markets compared to 2020.
And what about other luxurious items like handbags, fashion, jewelry, etc.?
Yes, that's actually one of the other reasons that millennials choose to shop at auction. And it's that it can be much faster to buy certain pieces secondhand than new. And searches for secondhand fashion and luxury items have experienced a huge boom in the last couple of years, with more buyers than ever shopping for what we call the serious pieces for their collections in luxury items.
But what do you think is the reason behind that? Because, I mean, there is a great primary market as well, but how come the prices on the secondary market is growing so quick?
That has to do with the long waiting time, as we just discussed. It can be much faster, and also you can find limited editions. items that are currently not sold in store.
And when you say that there is a waiting time for these limited editions, and actually not anyone can buy those kind of very expensive and exclusive watches, right? So the secondary market is actually a chance for people to buy these items that are not able to buy it on the primary market.
Exactly. So except for the waiting time, there are a couple of brands in the luxury fashion industry that have made it more difficult for buyers to get hold of these items.
Previous year, we have had a lot of attention to the market of contemporary art, for example. But now, what we can see in this report, quite old school collecting areas like books and stamps are coming into the market. Do we see any trends within this?
Yeah, that's actually another major trend, and we've seen that books, coins, stamps entered the top 5 most searched categories on Barnebys, and this was the very first time. They replaced porcelain as the 5th most popular category.
And who are buying this, or well, at least searching for this?
Younger buyers were actually responsible for this shakeup. And millennials, again, looked for analog entertainment, new hobbies during the long months of quarantine during COVID. This is also, or probably has to do with millennials growing up in such a digital world. Many millennials have probably never used coins or stamps and are used to listening to audiobooks instead.
You mentioned the quarantine. Do we see any change pattern because of COVID, would you say?
We do. We spent so much time at home during these COVID years. You were moving your office back home, so a lot of people were not just redecorating and showing interest in furniture because they were redecorating their offices, but also their entire apartments or houses.
Because they spent more time at home, I guess.
Yeah.
One of the major reasons why this demographic, millennials, are increasing so strongly, I think, is because of the sustainability aspect. And we've been talking about this for many, many years, that we've seen this come in. And in my opinion, I think the secondary market will actually surpassing the primary market in a couple of years' time. And I think the whole report actually showed this. Do you agree?
It does. Going green is actually one of the drivers of the auction market today. There's an element of shame in buying everything brand new. So if you're decorating your house or you're buying lots of watches or handbags, producing new items create waste and pollution. But if you buy something that's secondhand, it makes it feel like a more ethical way of indulging in luxury pieces. And also, if you're selecting these well-made classic pieces, they will last for a lifetime.
But another interesting thing with this, I would say, until last generation, kind of, we set up our home with a lot of inherited items from our grandparents or our parents, and it was a great mix of everything. You could find, especially quality, because it remained for generations, but also you added some IKEA, whatever that might have been. Today, or the last generation, you've seen people moving from their parents, they bought everything new. Is this, once again, is this a reaction to what happened the last 20, 30 years?
I definitely think that it does have to do with the items that you might have been allowed to bring from your childhood home or pieces that you have inherited. In creating new homes for millennials, most of them have only had the option of buying completely new furniture. And maybe, especially for millennials, maybe in your second or third home, you're looking more into mixing vintage with some of the pieces that you've bought previously.
And I think also what you can see is that people are looking much, much more into quality. And I think that's also a reason why a lot of major brands has get more attention as well, because they are producing items with higher quality.
Exactly.
Than many of those kind of how do you say, buy and throw away items. Yeah.
As you also know, it becomes a discussion point of when showing off your new house that you redecorated. If you have pieces that can tell a story.
And that are unique, because otherwise anyone can have them as long as you have money.
Exactly.
Right?
I still talk about my first auction item, and that was a chair, and it has been many, many years since, and it's always the one I get most questions about in my place.
In our industry, we a lot of times talk about the conversation pieces, and those are the conversation pieces that has a story, it has the quality, not just the material, but actually the design and well, that together, I would say. But you said that was your first auction purchase, this chair. I have to ask you if it was the first one. Did you calculate it with the commission and the shipping of that chair? Or did it become very expensive as it used to be for the beginner in this industry?
It actually did. I think I would have gotten it much cheaper if I would have bought it as, well, completely new. There are a lot of costs associated to it, but I wouldn't change it, and I don't regret it. Like you said, it's become a conversation piece and something that has moved with me, come along to other countries, cities, apartments. So it's definitely something I cherish and keep.
Something beloved. But with that said, do you think that is also a challenge for the industry? That to communicate about this commission, have how to say, a solution for the shipping, etc. Is that an obstacle for beginners in this industry?
Definitely. We can see that in the report that buyers are going across borders, and it's something that the auction houses will have to provide good, simple solutions for shipping solutions. But also when it comes to the user experience online, we or millennials are used to shopping online, and the expectations are very high, and it needs to be a seamless online experience for millennials to actually go through with the purchase. We see a lot of auction houses that are putting a lot of attention and focus on the online user experience right now.
Because for most, obviously, online is the enter to this magical world, isn't it?
Absolutely, but also if auction houses want to go global and cross borders and have buyers in other countries or continents, they need to be able to offer that seamless online experience, but like you also said, shipping solutions.
But what about when we started Barnebys? That's about 10 years ago now. People were talking about mobile first. Just a couple of years after, many were talking about mobile only. But still, today, some auction houses don't have their site mobile, adapted. Is this also key to how to say, gain interest from the millennials and the younger generations?
I definitely think and do agree with you. We need both the mobile and desktop. We've seen a shift towards mobile first, mobile only, but desktop is definitely hanging in there. The importance is to have the same seamless experience regardless of the devices that the buyers are using.
I think, meanwhile, some other industries will go just on mobile. I think we will still see the desktop, and the reason is because you want to enlarge the images. This is so much about the items, and you really want to see the marks or the shape of a porcelain plate or something, you know. So I think that's one reason. And then, of course, some people feel more secure also when they do transactions over their laptop instead of the mobile still, I think.
Yes, absolutely. I think it is also based on demographics and what we're used to. Millennials might favor mobile over desktop.
That's interesting. But do we see any changes of the buyers and user behavior from a geographic perspective?
With the online presence of auction houses, some of them making shipping easy, we've seen buyers going across borders. Another trend that we've seen on Barnebys in the last year is the presence of Germans shopping online and globally, which increased a lot.
Do you think that is because it was quite an immature auction market previously, or are there any other reason?
I think it's online auctions going online, or auction houses going online. And especially with certain demographics such as millennials or Gen Z being used to shopping online across borders, that doesn't seem to scare them as much as with other demographics.
And this must have been so much clearer for the auctioneers also during the COVID, I guess. Because if you went online, you didn't have any possibility to keep up with the auctions, I guess.
Yes. Another thing is that both Gen Z and millennials, they are social media users. And millennials favor Instagram and Facebook, while Gen Z is moving towards platforms like TikTok, YouTube. So for auction houses that have been present in these platforms or social media channels, they've seen an increase in younger audiences.
Interesting.
So establishing a reliable social media presence, I think, is essential for auction houses moving forward, for them to be able to connect, communicate with younger users, and where they will get an increased engagement. But that is also to build brand recognition and to be able to attract new users. And I also think that this has previously been a challenge, but they are now able to keep in contact with previous buyers and build their own database of customers.
If we once again look historically, many addressed their auction to a certain demographic, etc., maybe by advertising in one particular newspaper or magazine, very analog. Then people started to invest in marketing digital, and Google was the place to go. Now you just mentioned Instagram, Facebook, but you also mentioned TikTok and YouTube, for example. How important for auctioneers is it today to market themselves all over those platforms? Is it enough for just Instagram or Facebook, for example? And how important is it that the brand follows you on every touch point where you are?
If you want to build your brand, brand awareness and brand recognition among new buyers, and if you're looking to find new buyers, you have to be present across these platforms. Not all auction houses have the possibility to do so because lack of resources or marketing resources. But there are platforms like Barnebys, for example, that leverage all these different channels to promote the auction houses' brands.
We paid quite a lot of attention to the millennials, but what about the boomers?
Users of all ages looked for long-lasting quality items at auctions, and in particular those pieces that will grow in value over time. This explains the interest in precious jewelry, fine watches, as customers of all ages were looking for alternative investments during what has been quite of a difficult time. But we have also seen new trends, as we spoke about before, nostalgic pieces like board games and Pokemon cards. But what will be the new trend, Pontus? What should we invest in this year?
It's a very good question. I think that what is really growing the market is the sustainability aspect. I think what comes with the sustainability aspect is the understanding for quality. And I think this is the major trend in all different categories, that more and more people will look into quality. And not just the brands or designer in particular, but the quality. Is it the right material? Will this be everlasting for another 100 years? Is the design in so high quality that will remain interesting over time? And this, I think the understanding of quality will drive the industry.